Peace. Tinman, I'm back again. I hope you like my little video thumbnail I just put up there. Nice close up of these moist lips. Anyways, so I'm the Tin Man. If you haven't watched my show, then you're going to think that, man, do I ever have extraordinary information? Or you're going to think whatever else you want to think. And I'm thinking I might put up some sunshade. Well, I figured I would do a live thing because I didn't have much going on. Right now is kind of the best time of day for me. Just relaxing and feeling my best. There we go. And don't forget to share and thumbs up. Right? Make sure, like, if you watch this on a cell phone, this is one of the things that I always quite often do, is I will share it from my cell, and I'll share it to the couple of people that I might want to share it with. And so you do it through the cell like that. If they found something interesting, then maybe they pass it on. I know a lot of my stuff, hey, I got 3 people, a couple of thumber uppers, thank you very much. And yeah, I know I'm very hard to follow. I know that. I know it. I know it. Is it my fault? Yeah, I guess it is my fault because I really want to get you guys to understand it properly. I know you don't, everybody, I've come to realize that if I were to walk around in the forest with a lot of the different guys, I would be talking about stuff a lot more than them. But they would be growing in their knowledge. That would be one of the things. And, some people learn how to be a really good chef cook without even going to that kind of schooling. I myself, becoming to understand spices and cooking things up and stuff, I would never get past, I wouldn't get to the point of good with cooking. Out here, just to do with tracking out these guys. If everybody, or not everybody, if people really concentrate on what happened here, this is a guy that got this successful, so you connect with a certain amount of success on my show. And you can't always trust that my words necessarily. You got to get there in your mind. Well, what you do is you calculate up a whole piece of information for yourself to take. Think back, go back and just start 12 months back. And see where I was. I was just this green thumb out there. And then just go pick a video from each month, maybe. Do something like that. Something that tweaks your thing. I got 1,500 videos. And you can punch that thing from oldest to newest or newest to oldest, stuff like that. So you can categorize. And even in your own YouTube channel, you can create a list. So don't forget those things. So you're helping. Like, I don't understand all of this. I don't understand why I got such a heavy. Not that I'm saying it's crushing me, but it is a lot of stuff. We humans like holidays. We like those breaks and stuff. We like that 2-week break. We like that whatever. From this world, most people who get deep into it probably never take a break, but they learn to give themselves breaks. And that's what the full process I'm still doing in that year. I'm learning how to take a break. I'm learning why am I addicted in a way to researching these guys. There's some people who have just got a little bit of a tingle of the addiction thing by one day walking past the forest, and something tingled them and that made them start to think about the Bigfoot. And they felt like maybe they had an experience there. They go home and there's such a busy life. Maybe they only get to go to that bush once a year or whatever. I'm talking about the tingle that is pulling. It sounds to me is just as strong with so many people. It doesn't seem like it would necessarily be the same tingle that people get when they go venture into a new religion, when you start going to a new group of people, because so many of us are willing to do it, where we'll do it with lots of people. I'm not one of these guys that want to be with lots of people all the time necessarily. I'm enjoying my YouTube connection. I'm enjoying stuff. But to really be this whole programmed up guy that's been going through this whole thing for a year and stuff, trust me. And if you don't, you're a fool. I would just love to be trying to take care of my injury. If I was just off more in a seclusion spot, I'd be taking care of my injury, and I might actually be really working back into the working area in that community that I could be in. I know I could be in a nice, calm, low vibration, no railway station, you know, that kind of no heavy river living and stuff like that. And I would be doing my major healing. And if people don't get that, then I don't give a rat's ass. It's you in the end, trust me. And I'm not talking to my viewers. I'm getting out some backstabbing fool stuff right now that I did do a video up. I'm going on, yeah. So, but I was just getting some stuff out on some fools that are doing backstabbing. They act like, oh, I was friends, oh, I was this, oh, I was that. And you talk bad about people behind their back. And then you interact with my group of people to spread stupidity. So you're the ones who are stupid. I can't help it that you don't or didn't want to sit and hang out and figure out some stuff. But now I'm getting off of that. Now I'm back into, sorry about that little rant, guys, but yo, sup? Hey, Tupac. Thanks for stopping in, bruh. Warnock, how's it going, brother? So, yeah, so what I want to do then here, because I did just stir myself up a little bit there. I was supposed to stay clear of that subject. And I'm going to tell you, I have done a video on here that is confronting some of my cancers out there. And I'm telling them if they don't bleach out their cancer and try to figure out how to get rid of it, then, yeah, I explain my plan, you know, some options in that video so they can see it then. Anyways, cooler down in British Columbia, Canada. I have, if you watch my videos, if you subscribe to me at all, or if you want to subscribe, start subscribing. And when you're watching a lot of my videos and you see, you believe your eyes are seeing a lot of action, then believe your eyes. Don't be afraid to believe your eyes. Don't trick yourself. Don't fool yourself. Look for more information. Step further into it. On one of my videos that I just loaded up, I'm not recalling it, but if you've watched it, you'll recall it. It's got a slug there. I say something about the slug, you know, hey, what are you doing out here on the pathway and such. A few feet further, I notice a little dig in the ground there and stuff. On my comment there, and read my comments, I would suggest, because my comments are usually trying to be thoughtful and help other viewers on there. I'm trying... You know, it's not about me bad-mouthing myself, right? So it's about getting the information out there. So you're hopeful you get to be in that state of mind when you're viewing your own comments in a way. Anyways, in that moment, in that videotape, I come across that slug, and then I go to that dirt spot there. From the dirt spot to when I was finished talking about it is like close to 30 seconds or something. And I want you to realize that was just me speaking what my brain was doing out loud. And it can help you if your mind is projected at what I'm actually saying and not necessarily giving a shit so much about what you think you're going to see all the time. Be into reading. As soon as you see a number on one of the notes down there, zone in on that number and see if somebody's giving you a time frame, then you get to see something. Still watch the rest of the video, kind of zone what you're doing and watch for what you want and stop. And you know that thing where we got the little space bar on the bottom, you can hit within a fraction of that thing, so eventually, oh yeah, as soon as it's in that little move, you can see its eyes. You can see its nose, you can see its wee-wee, whatever you're trying to see, you hit that fraction of a point there, and it's extremely helpful. And you few people who are going, oh yeah, Tinman, we know these things. A lot of people don't know these things, and that's why I'm sharing them with you, because it helps them get into a proper level. And remember who you're getting educated from. Thanks very much to Brother Memphis Sasquatch for that awesome shout out that you did for me, man. That was and I love the fact that you're actually committing. He's saying, I'm not sure what Ian is figuring out with the trees and these different signs in the trees and these markings in the trees and the growth patterns and so on and so forth. You know, hey, all Mary, how's it going? And yeah, so that showed out that he does. And you can tell he's opened his mind, and he says he hasn't been watching a lot of my stuff. So quickly he opened his mind to, okay, what's this tree stuff? And then he probably opened his mind to think, okay, what's up with this guy, with this Tinman character? He calls me by Ian, so he registers kind of with the real character of who I am here and stuff like that. Tinman has nothing to do with Sasquatch, Bigfoot, anything like that. Tinman has to do with tinnitus. I'm a tinnitus sufferer, and I know from back then that I realized I was probably going to be a life liver of it, and so I nicked myself to own it. And yeah, there's lots of steps people go through in life, isn't there? Anyways, so here I am now. That some people say, I connect with your honesty, dude. You know, some people say I connect with your straightforwardness. Some people are connecting that there's no holes in my game. I've lost some of my good viewers because I never can comment to the people that, yes, I do see something also invisible there, or a face in that tree and stuff. I don't get into that. I've been walking around here and I've seen millions of faces, and the faces are what the forest is just leaving as faces. Like the clouds, we've all played those games. You know, one tree game that recently came to mind. When we were kids, when we were going up to Cultus Lake or going to visit Uncle Dave or something like this, in Fort Langley area, there was these two trees that we called the kissing trees. And from my age and siblings that are much older than me, they were playing the game even through my age. And those trees really did never much change other than probably microscopically growing bigger. They were probably heading 80 feet, maybe even beyond 80 feet. I think they were kind of both leaning. They were almost touching each other. And if I remember right, there might have been a bunch of little trees around them. But they sat like in a similar position for years. Maybe it was one more on a lean. Can't really remember. My siblings would remember better. Anyways, so my point about that was, those trees were not drastically changing ever in that Cuesta period, that 10 years or whatever. I should talk to my dad about that. He's got lock-in memory for some of that stuff. And that doesn't happen now. That's what you watch for. That is not happening. Go out there and look at most of our evergreen trees. They got more than one top now. If you concentrate and really look in there and see it before it's too much into a development, you'll see it maybe as it being a branch, being a top. They can conform and will try to conform that into being the real top in many cases. Our leaf trees that we have, so many of them, none of them ever more really speak of a true top of the tree. Look at them. We're seeing our treetops leave. This is what has feared me. And in that calculation of excessive tree growth, excessive tree falls, excessive tree demolition, excessive tree sucker growth system. If you don't know the sucker growth system, you'll study into it a little bit and you'll start to understand it. Excessive, that stuff's all excessive. And along with all of this excessiveness, I started to notice my very first few days of being able to figure out some claw marks that were not owned by a bear with lots of flecks in his system. Different than we. Different than another being with a similar 5-digit system that may have claws like that. I've sometimes guessed out, well, maybe it's just a single retractable claw. Or maybe it's just 4 claws, 5 claws. Or maybe they are still somehow retractable. It is a very confusing phenomenon, but it is real. Anyways, so I tracked those and tracked them from a few scuffs and marks to a few trees ripped apart where I called them teething trees. And that now I see them more at clawing trees. Anyways, in that same location, I came across a beautiful swipe and a couple of other nicks. And because of those other nicks that they did around with their claws, those beautifully helped me realize this isn't a bear doing it then. If they would have just done the one and walked away from it, I could have been that confused and figured that. But no, they made me think harder about it. Then they made me think, why all that? And like, why this kind of nicking construction? Then I started to notice those few trees that were knocked down in that area. These are not even a really dumb human hatching it down. It's not. Like, that was confirming to me. I was being confirmed with beaver-style cutting downs not being beavers by their wood chips and such like that. It got me all into this huge world about so much hiding, so much claw work and stuff. Got me into just looking at barks and realizing you guys are stripping this bark off. I can just tell. I can tell because your score mark is here and the rest of it's poured off, maybe pulled off, and maybe another score mark over here. Because we can tell score marks, guys. Look what I happen to have right in the side of my tools. I have this. I have my trusty comb. I got a nice piece of foam there that fills up the pocket so things won't slide around. They just sit there. A pair of scissors for a quick snip, and my tire gauge. But this is, out of 4 things, other than the foam being awesome, is one of my favorite tools. I'm down on a very low blade, but you any of you guys that know these tools, right? Like, know this tool. Of course, it's going to be dull and stuff like this, but know it well enough to be able to do this stuff. You've probably cut your hand a few times. You've probably done tons of just little cuts and wood and blah, blah, blah. I come from a carpentry background. I am a wood guy. I'm not an excellent woodsman, but I am a woodsman. And I'm a metal steel lover. I loved it as an art form to just play with that heaviness of steel and to make characteristics or something like that through steel. So anyways, back to those experiences. You know, I went to the extent of, I remember at one point thinking to myself, I wonder the arbutus tree, because it's all stripped. And I remember thinking that. And then I did this tour where I went on a tour of probably 6,000 kilometers in total or something. And now I've been up to about, probably I'm at, I don't know, 12, 13,000 only, because the last 6 months it's been very slow on putting on lots of exhibitions or, to get out there. Anyways, I need a drink. So I went out onto what we call Vancouver Island, and that's where I discovered they were doing bark thickening. Trees, huge trees with bark this frickin' thick. It don't need to be that thick, trust me on that. It don't need to be. It creates a different kind of dampness within the cores of our trees. The overleaving, the over drinking, but that's where I discovered the arbutus tree. Sorry, with some scars on it, okay, of these buggers. And that's when I looked once again, and I looked at all their chippings of that bark, and you expect to stand there and maybe even be able to dig down and dig through an ecosystem of breaking down. Like, you guys have to live the eco to be able to follow the being. A bear's ecosystem is he'll shit on a path, he'll shit wherever he wants, he'll eat what he wants and walks away from it. He half-ass tries to bury things, he breaks these couple of things, scratches his back like this, scratches his shoulder like this, and a few dozen more maybe things. And we find a bear. These guys have been hiding for us forever. Why is it impossible that a guy figured out techniques to actually get what I just said out of like that bear thing? And that's what has happened here, people. And I'm not near the end. There's going to be lots of things. I believe they're not going to be able to speak English. I've been laying right with them. Last night, I so much felt like just opening my door and acting like I'm calling in a little one to my door and just lay back and see if somebody had the courageousness to walk up. But I didn't have the courageousness to actually do that. I thought about it and I thought, nah, you don't want to go there, brother. One of the things I don't do is hey, Welsh Witch, how you doing? And Dave, Peppersid, how are you, my friend? Thank you for coming in. So awesome that people are dropping in, and I love those thumbs up. That's awesome stuff, you guys. Like, that really isn't your commitment to the rest of the world. I don't know who did those 6 thumbs up. I don't know if I can set up my thing. I think you guys are able to say whatever. You guys know what to do with thumbs up. So anyways, I'm jumping around, and I was just going to jump into, I forget, 7 up now. Nice, Mary. Thank you. And so I think I was going into some moisture things there and stuff, like so what we have to understand, the ecosystem and stuff. So I was telling you to get into the ecosystem of the animal, and the ecosystem of a cat is different than the ecosystem of a dog, different than the ecosystem of how us humans behave and are trying to adjust ourselves on how we do our ecosystem, right? And these guys have an ecosystem. These guys know how to be building their land to be helping themselves. We don't know if the way that they're doing it is helping us. And why don't we know that? Because we talk a lot about a lot of carbon differences. And what I have come to discover, and I haven't even taken my drink, water with no advertising. So what I've come to discover through all these different manipulations of trees and stuff I was talking about a bit earlier in the show here. And what I have found is leaves are their radiators in a way, or whatever. They humidize off, like they're doing a humidity thing, okay? So, okay. Anyways, I'm just trying to get my head straight here. I'm doing what I don't like to do, and seeing all these vehicles moving in front of me and make me think, hey, that's a nice truck. Hopefully I don't knock down the cam. Saying poor connection right now, but I think it's working. And so let me just see where I'm at here. And so what I do is, so the leaves, they do a lot of off-gassing. There we go. There's a difference in the off-gassing. Our trees in this area, and I see on a lot of other YouTubers, the leaves are super heavy. They're dense. They also look like they can be taking over maybe some mountains, and the evergreens are becoming lesser in areas that aren't necessarily farm areas. Is what I would start to research into that understanding, I think. Like the big farming areas where they grow the trees for 20 and 30 years and stuff and farm out those kind of areas, which they won't have to do it near as much. Hey, AJ, how's it going? And thanks for popping in. Thanks for that thumbs up. Thanks for the support. So humidity and stuff, because during the day when the sun is doing its thing, there's a certain reactions. I'm not going to pretend I'm smart here. There's reactions that are going on that are creating our off-gassings, our gas holdings. Different things are going on because heat will sometimes make things off-gas at different temperatures. Hence, putting this thing out in the heat, once it's getting to just a certain temperature, it actually will start off gassing. You might not be able to go up there and smell anything, but it is actually in its breakdown period, and this would be different than this plastic. They're going to be different volumes and such like that. So it's that simple and this complicated. And obviously our trees are super important in this whole field. So that's where I believe science has flipped, where they don't realize it. They know nothing about a Bigfooted being, let alone that he's a gardener, let alone that he's aggressively hitting our forests more, let alone that I was in my doctor's office yesterday and I was quite ticked off because I'm telling such a crazy story and you guys aren't passing me to another psychiatrist, a person that's just a next person who's a little bit up there and might take my story a little bit different and then he might end up saying, okay, or someone might say at a government level, these couple of people are yours, explain your thing to them. And obviously, intellectual levels only is where I'm going to go with the intelligence, like a David Suzuki type mentality. He is going to have government connections where he is actually a government employee, I'm sure, and that's where I'd want to go. I don't want to just go with Joe Blow who's on the lowest line of some science committee and just kick me out the back door. I've been kicked out the back door too many times, and I realize it's just because of knobby, ignorant people that aren't taking the time to think beyond their own judgments. So having said that, so I talked to my doctor and I explained to him the tree changes and why science isn't seeing them is because it's almost not abnormal. Trees grow. That's not abnormal. They go green. That's not abnormal. They fall off in the fall, and you guys might have started noticing that a lot of needle-style trees, just in certain branches of them, not the whole tree, I'm talking about, say you pick one tree, maybe a whole tree you notice had gone a fire red. Maybe a whole line of trees you notice they all went a fire red. Now maybe you're noticing a few of the things are popping back really green on them and stuff like that. I think sometimes when they put the tree into a certain process, they hit it too hard or something, it does almost kill it out. And then they have to have the time to be able to bring it back, and they will, in most of the cases. And I'm referring to trees that were bigger, healthier, had a statement in life, and had been doing their thing. I'm not talking about necessarily small gardening trees all the time, because a small gardening tree, we give it its fertilizer and stuff, and I assume they will keep growing and stuff. I don't figure that these guys have to come and visit that tree to make sure that it will grow. But if they do figure out how to hide behind that rock and get over there and never be inspected, they will get their little ones to go over there. And their little ones will do their little couple of scuffs and a break and maybe a couple of steals and branches and stuff. If they get to the point and they start to debark it and stuff, the remnants of the bark is what you watch for, and you'll never see it add up properly because they like the bark. They take the bark for some reasons. and in that process of happening, you're going to end up seeing it being actually sliced. Like when I brought out my knife there, lots of times I see a shape similar to about this profile that I'm giving you right there. And it's kind of neat because it's kind of a neat claw angle. If so, and sometimes it's so weird. And also that you can get a cut that's kind of slid out like that, and at the same time it's so you're slicing it like that along length, but at the same time it has a concave, you know what I'm saying, concave or whatever, through it. So it's like a two-cut system like that. And that shape in there is similar to this, which I've seen it like this, and in ways that it's not the small concave, it's a big concave. And yeah, so there's a lot of information there. So that tree you're growing there, and it's being skinned and stuff, and then you're going to just see little nickings in it and stuff. And then what you're going to end up doing is realizing that it's kind of like a scab. You go up there and nick this, our scab will grow something on it. I bet you if we just sat there and cut into that scab, every day you cut into it differently, it's just, you could work it that it just becomes a great big scab. In a way, that's what they're doing when they go there and they visit the tree once and they nick it up to their likings, their necessity, whatever. That tree now goes into a function mode where he just wants to feed all those new marks. They're not scabs, but he wants to feed them all and not necessarily have them becoming like scabs. But if you really look at the bark design and you really look at bark, you can sit there and say, yeah, you will. Once you start studying this and you start realizing that they are changing the barks, they are having something to do, you'll realize they are reacting more in a scab, similar to us. Like I got this scab right here that I've actually been working quite aggressively now for a few months, and I'm doing it a Bigfoot technique. I'm trying to wear away that scab in a way, and I'm cutting it away because this can become cancerous someday. And I figure if I just allow it to just sit there and look ugly and just keep building and building, that for sure cancer is going to get in there. I look at it, well, if food can get it, if my clean blood can get to it and stuff like that, that's what helps take away cancer. So sometimes I nick it, and that's why sometimes it's red and stuff, because I'm too aggressive and I cut in too deep or whatever type thing, or I catch it on something and kind of cut it or whatever type thing. But I'm fully trying to get this down to a spot where maybe for the rest of my life I got to cheese grater it for an ugly joke. But I bet you I won't get cancer in it, because I'm keeping it right down at that spot. And that will be something to understand. But how I kind of came to that understanding is what I see them doing through bark. So I've seen some trees that are just beautifully barked. I've seen trees that are the same species of trees now so many times. It's not like we necessarily have millions of species. So I've seen species of trees that are as small as this and have a whole bunch of their marks on them. And then I've seen species of trees this big, and I figured maybe they've visited that tree only once in its life, maybe twice in its life or whatever. Now, I bet you... Not that I'm saying I bet you, but if I went out there and I hit all of my spots that I've hit now, redid the island, redid all those spots, I bet you people, I am just going to be blown away on the changes, because in my year, I've learned to pretty much speak, let's just say, a quarter of their language, of their living language, just their livingness. I've learned to speak, not speak it, but be able to read it. Speak it, I guess, in a way, because I'm showing you guys through some kind of mental imagery how to look at it. So back to that tree you're taking care of again then. So that tree, and I talked about all those cuts and stuff, and it wants to feed those. So if we went up there and actually broke off a limb, it's the weirdest thing. It's like if we got this chopped off, our body, as far as I know, doesn't, and the doctors took it away, our body will be able to think it through, whatever, and maybe it's because partly our mind use on the healing, and remember this part, because we don't all of a sudden, this arm doesn't start getting huge. Like, it might get inflamed, all that kind of stuff, but it's not going to get huge with food. But what a tree honestly really does, and that's because of this, and that's what we're seeing through all this growth, is it does want to send something there. Even if the limb's gone, it's not able to go wherever its brain is, where I believe its real power is basically earthness. Let's go with 2 feet in, 2 feet out. There's the heart and soul of a tree, or whatever, if you start to really walk amongst them and understand what a tree hugger really should be meaning. Not necessarily a person who goes out there and chains himself to a tree, but when you really hug a tree, you start to feel its vibrational state. You start to feel its warmth. That's what those guys don't do, I think. But that's whatever. A tree hug, tree chainer themselves to the tree. Saving trees is a good thing, I would say. Anyways, so the tree wants to feed whatever. So now they do aggressive times where they'll go up there and they'll snap off the top of a tree, and the tree wants to send all this energy up, and they do their certain probably nicking power. Like I've said, they fail sometimes. Sometimes the tree goes into this death thing, but then they can, so many times I've seen them now coming back and such like that. I've seen some of the red needles going red, and then actually they're starting to change back to green. I never knew that process could happen within those red needles. I thought those red needles strictly meant they were going to wilt off, like a tree, leaf would give us that indication. And all these trees that all the leaves are hanging on the trees and stuff, those leaves are still alive. Where you think, oh, that one's been dead for a number of months, those trees and stuff, go up and pull on that leaf. You're going to understand, yeah, there might be life in there. Break it apart, look at it and stuff like that. See how much of it has the life. The stem still has life in it. Its process was a freaky, trippy process. Nothing to do with fall. The Bigfoot going in there and mucking up with the trees really happens in mall parking lot. Go to mall parking lots. It's really kind of funny how they try to influence our eyes a lot. That's what I believe that process happens there. Why they would do that to our malls around this area. I've been into malls in different cities and stuff like that. It's a mall phenomenon in Vancouver, British Columbia. A whole bunch of places they've come up with all these bag things, wrapping the bags around those trees and stuff. Well, me from observing that, and they're a slow feeder to the tree, so they were thinking that it's lacking on water. And if you really went into and checked all our water schedules and stuff of this year or whatever type thing, I don't think we had any real worry of water in our area. I don't think we really had a real worry of fire down in this area here. Up in the mountains in different areas and stuff, different stories, different whatever. So those bags were just a silly thing, and a company trying to say it's all about this. Anyways, so a lot of those trees in this area here, I checked out a couple of different spots, and the trees went into dire mode, like they were dying more and getting more upset and stuff. And I truly, by my observation and stuff, and guesstimation and analyzation and all what I have to do here with the information that I use, I figured it was them saying, get these friggin' bags off. Like, just take them off. We don't want this gimmick here or whatever type thing. Because they like the tree. They like to be able to get at the whole tree, right? So know that. Yeah, so I've been running and running and running. Lots of people out there. You're welcome, AJ. That's nice. 8 thumbs ups. So, Mary, you still around? Anybody hanging around that wants to? I think I'm just kind of stopping there because I was running and running, and people who watch it can put my stuff together. I worry a lot on how I'm not presenting myself like this. 9 up now, cool. I'm more how I'm presenting my information. Like I know I can come across confusing. I know I jump, something will make me think of something and I jump onto that other subject and blah, blah, blah. So we have, you on the other end there just needs to, accumulate it how you do. Some people come on here and they'll say, yeah, I get you, Tin Man, blah, blah, blah. And they'll start saying a whole bunch of my, kind of notes of history, what have gone on in this last year. And I love that, because then that makes me realize, oh, that guy's getting it deep. And for the people who have lots of names out there and I don't remember your names and all that kind of stuff, I apologize, but that's probably just going to be the way that it is, right? This is, if you went back and looked at my channel, I don't even know how much YouTube stuff I would even be doing, because I would obviously want it to be entertaining, and this gets to be entertaining in an educational process mostly, is what I think my goal is and what I feel driven about. Hey, Welsh Witch, what's that? Your videos are brilliant. Thank you very much. And you make a lot of sense. Well, thank you very much, Welsh Witch. Thank you. That's, it's that kind of stuff, especially when when I recognize your name, like you're coming around all the time and stuff, right? Even if you were hiding behind that name in your, my Uncle Jim, and you're still saying those words, at least I'm getting that little thrill. I always like it. I say it to people, like, to have your picture up in your thumbnail and stuff, like your honest picture, that for people who are worried about it, because we worry about a lot of stuff. I don't think it's that big of a worry. I don't think you need to worry about stuff. So Mary is saying, have you thought about starting a blog? Blog is where you're just doing it like this, where it's just all type, like, I'm not that guy, like, Mary, like, right now I should just even be talking a little bit quieter like that. It's a little bit nicer on my head. Well, reality, I shouldn't wear his hat as much as I wear a hat, because this little bit of whatever on my head doesn't actually help me feel better. It actually helps me feel a little bit worse, but you know what? I'm a hat wearer, and sometimes you just push through with your things. And the Welsh Witch is saying that I also make her laugh. Well, that's good. That is very cool. We all need comedy in our lives, don't we? I need more of it sometimes. Yep. So I'm going to be uploading a video here, you guys, after this one. And I'm straight up giving a couple of people shit, so don't take it. They'll know who they are, so don't you think that in some way it could be directed at you. And by the end of the video, I'm just so huffed up, right? So, stupid people, if you watch the video, you will get the understanding of what it's about or whatever type thing, right? So you'll get the passion understanding. So, is what it is. Some people just say stupid things, and sometimes when people are a little too close to home, you got to make sure you tell those people to back out of your driveway if you don't want them close to home. And so that's what I'm basically doing, is I'm telling them to back the hell out of my driveway and don't come back. And if you do, then that's when I go to step number 2 with one and step number 3 with the other. Or fail number 2 and fail number 3, so it's life. I don't like having to talk the tough guy part or whatever type thing, and just like you women, you men out there or whatever type thing, when I had to go to the principal and stuff, and if you walk out of there afterwards and you're going, oh jeez, and you actually say I had to give the principal shit because they're just not thinking, they're being stupid or something, and you gave that thing of where their ignorance made it, where you were giving them shit, right? And you walk out of there, and it's nice to probably be able to hit that plateau to remember it. And it's nice to bring yourself down as quick as you can, not remind yourself about the subject so much, or if you have to talk about the subject a lot, just keep reminding yourself that it can be presented still in a calmer fashion. I don't have to bring the blood so rushing and stuff, so just my own steps that I do because of my tinnitus and my hyperacusis. I'm not always successful on it, especially if I'm talking with somebody. I can get very riled up and probably ruin some relationship that way. In some ways, I think, but that's life. People have to understand that's life. Peace out from the Tin Man. Hope you all enjoyed. Thank you very much for the support. And anything that you see awesome. Hey, Kim. Miss Kim Carson from The Tonight Show. Thanks for all that you do or share with us. You're very welcome, Kim. And Mary Smith is saying, right, because it's their problem. Don't let it harass you. I hear you. It's just, and I think I've been always a story sharer. Whether they're stories or not, I've always been talking my whole life. I've been told many times that, maybe a few times I talk too much, maybe a few times that I talk a lot, but then there's times where I don't. I can have no problem not talking. Peace out. Right now, for me, a lot of talking needs to be done. There's a phenomenon going on. It isn't this simple little Bigfoot. I think I tried to get into it a couple of times. In my pictures, now in my first face-to-face, go visit my first face-to-face, put it in your frequently watched or whatever. Go visit it once a month. Focus in at my 2-minute mark. Focus in on that little guy and really draw him in real. Start to realize what's going on there. And then as you do that, and every month you go back and you visit it, and obviously when you visit it, you give it 5-10 minutes or whatever, and just hit that return button like I tell you, or pause on the perfect spot. Go in there, grab a magnifying glass, stay back here, do whatever you need to do. Get beyond the stridation lines of the actual computer system and stuff, and try it on a little computer at the same time as that. Try it on your iPhone at the same time, all that kind of stuff, and you're going to recognize a being. And when you recognize that being, then you got to understand that I am not bullshitting you, that I am as honest about that as honest about all my other information. I haven't given you honest amounts of numbers of these guys, but my honest feeling is I don't see how it's not in the hundreds of thousands here in this ever-lying community, if you want to call it all of British Columbia, if you just want to say it's within all of the city, the towns around in the Fraser Valley and stuff. Somewhere in our system here, there's going to be 100,000 frickin' of these buggers. They got cavings throughout, I believe, is what it's going to be. If you start walking around, there's a lot of ground upsetness. If you guys don't know this from our World War II, World War I, we had caver guys that could go underground and go so far below the ground that they hardly have to worry about that whole thing coming down because it's such aged earth or whatever type thing. Think about that kind of trenching that they used to do. They did it for thousands and thousands and thousands of miles in some of those countries where the wars were going on. Go and look at that World War history. That will give you an understanding of a different level of caving that we understand when these guys get caved in and died from, because they're mining. That's 100% different because of the sizes we're talking and stuff. We're not talking about little paths, okay? So now you go out there and you start walking around at your malls. This is pre-frost. Understand frost this winter. Go up to something where you've seen, hey, that chunk wasn't there last night and it's been lifted. Lift it out. And if you don't feel that, see that icy, if you don't see gravel pellets within that ice, and it's almost an ice where you would never suck it because it's dirty, but enough ice that 100% why that got pushed up last night. And frost isn't that quick, and frost has this and that and stuff like that. They're fooling the shit out of us with potholes. Anyways, I talk a lot about them shifting rocks on the dikes, on earth retaining systems, on decorative almost retaining systems, and so on and so forth. They do that so we're always also understanding that Earth is always moving and stuff. Well, we're starting to see a major amount of sidewalks for some reason in this summer actually shifting like this, where if it was the tree that's doing it and just did it this summer, that doesn't make sense. If the tree's partly doing it and the Earth somehow is being helped or somehow doing a little shift, then look around. Think about it. Look at your driveway and your asphalt stuff. The cracks are getting much bigger and stuff. Go up to, do you not remember when you were a kid having to clean out those cracks in the driveway and stuff and how hard they were and stuff? Well, right now, go out and look at them and see how dirty they are. Process those kind of different things, and that's when you start to really be able to come into understanding that, yeah, they're up to a lot of stuff, all over Earth stuff. And if I really have a really real big problem with these guys is the numbers. The numbers seem like they're so huge that they're going to be a big problem in 10 years. Since I've been watching these guys over this 12 months here, I don't think it's that I've just gotten better at necessarily figuring out that more around. I think more have also come in at the same time. So yeah, there's so many areas. Well, all over ground they can live under. Mary's saying lots of areas underground for them to live. Other researchers agree with my numbers. Oh yeah, eh? Welchwich is saying, I agree. Ignore the idiots who walk through life with their heads up their butts. And a hug. Alrighty, guys. Peace out. Guys and ladies, you know who I'm talking to. Thanks all so much for the support. And we'll see you next time. Tinman. It's hard to say goodbye almost sometimes, isn't it? With my hand in front of my face. Peace out.